There are moments in retail that remind you why shopping in person, it still matters. It does. It makes you feel good. Those rare, unexpected moments of discovery, the ones that almost feel magical. And recently I had one of those moments. I was actually having lunch with a girlfriend. We were eating lunch at Phoenicia. We decided to walk over to the Krigler boutique inside the Four Seasons Hotel in Houston. It was just right across the way. Easy peasy. It's kind of chilly out. Had my coffee. So we walk through the hotel lobby, and step inside this incredible little boutique where the atmosphere was quiet and everything outside the doors just disappeared. Everything just slowed down. The team welcomed me and my girlfriend in a way that felt so genuine and kind and gracious and incredibly knowledgeable. But more than that, they were so excited to share what they knew. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is how you're supposed to feel when you go shopping. True luxury, it isn't really about the price. It's about the stories, the craftsmanship, and definitely about the human connection. Because Krigler, it's not just a fragrance brand. This boutique, it felt like a living piece of perfume history. Welcome to another episode of Sorry, It's Discontinued. I'm Hillary, your host, and this is a podcast about the world of retail and the people who keep it going every day. And I am so glad you're here with me, because today we are stepping into the world of Krigler. So hit follow, have a seat with me, and let's get into it. Sorry. It's discontinued. So I find the Krigler story really fascinating. It begins in 1904 when Albert Krigler, he was a young chemist, he created his very first fragrance, Pleasure Gardenia 79. And what I love about this story, it wasn't created for the market. He actually created it for a lady. He was like, hey, lady, I'm going to create this love scent, a love letter in scent for the person who would later become his wife. I mean, how sweet is that? And that origin, that romance, it's woven into the DNA of the brand today. And over time, Krigler fragrances, they've traveled from Europe to the United States and have become favorites among royalty. I'm embarrassed. I hadn't heard of them until my girlfriend, who is a big fragrance nerd and connoisseur, she knows her fragrances. She studies them, experiences them. She travels to Paris and London to go and experience all the fragrances, and all over, even Dubai. And I mean, anywhere you can imagine, she is now traveling to go and experience fragrance as her hobby. She has a very stressful job, and it takes her out of that world and into this world of scent. She loves it. So when she told me about Krigler and we walked over to this beautiful boutique, hearing about this story, how Krigler has become favorite among royalty, cultural icons, and some of the most recognizable figures in history. But what makes them so special, it isn't just who wore these fragrances, it's how they're made. They're not mass produced, and they are crafted in small batches using some of the finest raw materials in the world. And the brand, it has remained family-owned for generations, which, as you guys know, it's incredibly rare nowadays. Most big companies have bought smaller companies, and knowing that Krigler is still family-owned, you can feel that intention, that care in every single bottle. And then there are the stories. They carry history with them. And as these wonderful women, this team was going through all of these fragrances and showing them to my girlfriend and I, they were telling us the stories and sharing who would wear a certain fragrance. And it was pretty incredible. Like Grace Kelly, she famously wore Chateau Krigler 12, a scent that feels as elegant and as poised as you can imagine that she was. John F. Kennedy, man, he was known to wear Liber Gustave 14, very clean, fresh, kind of vibrant, quietly powerful. When I was smelling it, just imagining that that's how he smelled, oh man, it took my breath away. I just got quiet when I would smell the blotter card. Now, Audrey Hepburn, she loved English Promenade 19. Light, graceful, timeless. And as I stood there smelling each of these fragrances and listening to the stories behind each of them, I realized we weren't just experiencing notes like bergamot, jasmine, or sandalwood. I felt like I was going back into those moments and imagining being next to these people and giving them a hug as I smelled these notes. Each fragrance, it felt like a time capsule, something you don't just wear, but you become a part of. But the biggest takeaway for me about this whole experience, it wasn't just the history, but it was the way that these women shared these stories, shared these fragrances, showcased the bottles, laid out the blotter cards. We were not rushed. They didn't overwhelm us. It was guided. And it was very intentional as they explained each of these fragrances, very slowly and thoughtfully, waiting for us to experience each one, give our feedback, and walking us through the notes and the inspiration and the people connected to them. It was such a beautiful rhythm, really. We would spray, we would listen and pause and story, feeling. And that is what I talk about so much in retail. And that is why I wanted to talk about it today for this episode. Because I know when showing just a lipstick or just a simple bottle of fragrance, a fragrance that might be an everyday fragrance, something that we are used to in retail, but the person in front of you, they don't experience that. This is a big deal for them. And sharing the story of why it's created, what notes are in it, try it, smell it, taking time, even with your client. It can be so meaningful. And that's what luxury should be about. It should be inviting someone into this world that we might get to experience every day. And I don't want to sound like some cheesy sales associate who's like, selling the dream. I know it's not easy and it's not always going to be like that. But when you do have intention with the right client, like what I experienced, because I didn't have the money to spend $700 on one of these fragrances. But do you know, I never felt like they were judgmental and it wasn't about the sale, at least at that time. It felt really personal and sweet, and it just stayed with me. That kind of service, it's just rare nowadays. Of course, this is a high-end boutique inside a very high-end hotel in Houston. And that type of fragrance with such a higher price point, you want to have that experience for everyone. They're trained on it. But not all salespeople, even if they are trained, have the intention of really sitting and showcasing the product the way that these wonderful women did. And I thank them so much because Krigler fragrances, they're not inexpensive, but they are not meant to be. These are made with extreme intention, precision, and artistry. And owning one, it does not feel like buying a perfume. You are literally collecting something very meaningful and something that holds a story, holds a memory, a feeling. And I definitely dream about owning one very soon. In a few years, we shall see. Luxury at its best, it should inspire us. It should invite us into a world that feels just a little more beautiful, thoughtful, timeless, something that also creates connection. Oh yeah, I'm a big fan of connection. Now, the fragrance, if you ever get a chance to go there, I know that they don't have very many locations, of course, but lovely Patchouli 55. Oh, that was one of my favorites. It was rich and warm. It was just beautiful. And I just kept smelling myself after I left. It was patchouli blended with creamy, velvety undertones and just very elegant. Oh, I loved it. Apparently, it's associated with Jackie Kennedy Onassis. So when you smell it, you kind of get it. You know what I mean? It was very refined, effortless. But that's the kind of scent that lingers. But what really made the difference, what was so special, was when I left the boutique, I kept thinking about how rare that experience is becoming. And I enjoyed every moment of it, where the world of shopping is mostly on our screens. But this was a moment where it reminded me of what retail can still be. It's not gone. When someone behind the counter, they take their time to share something meaningful with you. And then when you walk away, you still remember how you felt. And sometimes, if you're lucky, it smells like a bottle of Krigler. Now, I thank you so much for sitting with me today on Sorry It's Discontinued. And I appreciate you so much, my retail family. And all the shoppers out there. I hope you are taking time for yourself this week, even if it's just 10 minutes. You deserve it. I don't know if you know that. You do. Remember to shop in store when you can. Support the people behind the counter and always lead with kindness, whether you're standing in front of the counter or behind it. And I'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much. All right. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to Sorry It's Discontinued, the podcast that brings you the reality of retail and the people, brands, stores, and products we all love. If you enjoyed today's episode, hit follow, leave a review, or share it with a fellow retail warrior. You can always connect with me or support the show at sorryitsdiscontinued.com or buymeacoffee.com/sorrypodcast. Now, this podcast is independently produced and not sponsored by any brand, company, or organization. All views, opinions, and personal stories shared are their own and do not represent any retailer or brand mentioned. Brand names, product references, and service mentions are included for storytelling and commentary purposes only. But I thank you so much for sitting with me today. And remember, continue to shop in store, support your local stores and your local sales associates. You can even call them and order. It's amazing. And every visit helps keep these stores open so we can all continue enjoying real in-person retail therapy. And I'll see you next time. I appreciate you so much. Bye. Sorry. It's discontinued.